In this special bonus episode, we're going to be talking with Daines Hutt, and we're going to be explaining the tactics on how to run Facebook ads to your content marketing. Now, as we've mentioned in the previous episode, some of this may be a little bit advanced, so you might have to re-listen. And if you didn't listen to the previous episode with Daniel about content marketing, you probably want to do that first, even though these two will really help you out. What we're going to be talking about are things that can absolutely help you in your business. Now, I want to give a couple resource recommendations, things that we actually didn't talk about in the episode, but I think will really help you as a content creator. One of the strategies that Daniel talked about was doing an interview with your clients, or even doing an interview with people that could be potential prospects. One of the best and easiest ways to do interviews is with a platform called Zoom. And that's a video conferencing platform which is free. So you can just go to zoom.us. The other thing you can do is you can get all of your Zoom interviews transcribed. And my favorite transcription tool at the moment is called Temi, T-E-M-I. So I would definitely suggest checking out those two tools as they'll help you out in your business. Now, the other thing, Daniel has made a resource guide that is going to be extremely helpful for you. And you can go to ampmycontent.com/promoted-content, or just go to the show notes. We'll throw a link in there. I just want to be clear, we're not affiliates. We're not getting compensated. We just find it to be really helpful information for you. So now we're going to jump into the tactical information on this episode so that you can apply it to your content and run Facebook ads to there. If you find this helpful, at the end of the episode, we would just love for you to leave a review in iTunes and for you also to reach out to Daniel and say, hey, thanks for the podcast content.
There's a certain sequence of events that you want to create to make this work. It's actually really simple. If one of the first things you need to understand is actually how much you can afford to spend, because that's what stops a lot of people with paid ads, because they don't even know if they're making a profit because they see that they're spending X amount and they don't realize that actually, based on conversion rates and things like that, it's costing them less than anything else they're doing. So I won't go into it too much, but it's real simple. It's, the cost of the ad minus the actual money they make based on conversions. It's all in there and it's real simple. It's just kind of one thing minus another thing. So once you know how much you can spend, you can then take action and research. Now, when it comes to writing an ad, especially when writing an ad to a cold audience, it's usually a long form advert. So there's certain things to attract and appeal and overcome. And again, we show you there's templates to this and stuff all in the guide. That's the beauty of doing that interview method that we talk about in part one, is that not only do you understand your audience and not only does it help you write better content, but then when you come to write the advert, it's real simple to do. You understand all the pain points and desires, the goals. You understand where they are right at the beginning when they don't even know the problem, where they are now in the pain of that problem. And you understand how to connect with them with the actual goal that they want, because in reality, the goal that they want is not what you would think. It's not to remove that pain point. For example, we teach people about content promotion to get traffic. Yes, you want traffic, but in reality, it's because you want more free time, or you want to go hang out with your family or something like that. So you'll understand how to connect those parts. I know in reality, in this part two, really we want to talk about the methodology, and it's actually really, really simple. So what we do is we create a focus group of the most ideal customer for our advert. Maybe it's only about 1,000 people. We really narrow down. Facebook allows you to create all these custom audiences based off of interests and things like that. So I try and create people who are the ideal audience for that topic. Then what we'll do is we will create variations of our advert to try and create the best version that gets the most clicks. And then once we've got that version from that focus group, we then expand and go to a broader audience. And I'll explain all that.
Okay, so focus group is the first place. Is that right?
Yeah, so this is the thing. Like I said in part one, a lot of ads start off at a loss. So what we're trying to do is, even though we know that we're spending money and not making sales initially, we're trying to get the advert to get to a point where it can be profitable. So we're eating those costs early on. So when it comes to, say, a newsfeed ad in Facebook, there's certain elements that you can test. You have an image, you have the headline, the subhead, and then all the text and the call to action. Most people, when they kind of test an advert, they'll either see multivariate testing, which is what Ad Espresso and guys like those do. So they will test every single variation all at once, and they'll have 25 ads running to find the winner. If you've got a budget, fantastic. But the thing is, you need those ads to be running for a certain amount of time to actually find a legitimate winner. Because I've had ads before that are losing at the start, and by day 4, they're almost triple the performance of the previous ads. So you have to let ads run for long enough. And a lot of people, they see this multivariate where they're testing every single possible combination all at once, and it just costs a small fortune. If you don't have that budget, what you can do instead is A/B test. So A/B testing is where you're testing just one element at a time to see which variation is the best. So how someone consumes an advert, a Facebook advert, it's really interesting. They do it the same as they would a direct response advert from back in the day, but they do it in a weird order. So they're scrolling through their newsfeed, and the first thing that gets their attention is the image. If the image gets their attention, they read the headline underneath to see if it's actually relevant to them. Then they read the subhead to see, okay, well, a little bit more information, and only then do they kind of scroll up to the text that's above the image. Up until that point, there's kind of blinders on and not really reading anything because Facebook is a wall of text. So we test an ad based on those elements. The first thing we test are the images. We find an image from our focus group that gets the most clicks, and then we use that winning image in all future tests. Then we test different headlines to see what gets the most clicks. We keep that, so we now have 2 winning elements. So now for every future test, it's already cheaper. You know, we're not just testing 100 different things all at once. Then we test the subhead, and then we test the text and the call to action. By doing it like this, it's cheaper in the initial run because maybe you've got an ad budget, but you don't have 20 grand to spend today, but you have $100 per week or something. It means you can get started on it and start to have a winning ad within like a week or 2. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. And so once they hit your ad, they click on it and they're in your ecosystem. Are there certain goals or milestones that you have? Like, are you doing it sometimes just to build a retargeting audience, or are you trying to get the email addresses, or are you hoping that they take action right there? Like, what are your expectations and what are you setting up?
So I have this tight focus group. It's maybe 1,000 people who are ideal for the piece of content. And the advert is just sending them to that content. So ideally, the article itself should do well, and it should get an email on its own based on the methods we covered in part 1. All I'm doing right now is I'm just running this ad for impressions, for eyeballs. It's showing it to them as much as possible so that we can test and see, okay, well, this variation is getting more clicks than this one, and this is getting more clicks than this one, because we're trying to, I don't even care about the end goal right now at that point. Ironically, you will see opt-ins and you will see some sales, but our goal is to try and get the ad to get the most clicks as possible, because when we broaden it to a wider audience, it's going to lower the cost, and it's also going to increase the relevance and effectiveness of the advert. So we're not doing any kind of conversion goal or anything like that. We are getting a retargeting audience because our site has a pixel on it and people are going across. But right now, it's just a focus group of these are the ideal people we want to communicate with. How can this advert be the most effective it can be at talking to those people? And so that's all we're doing really in that early stage, is just testing those different elements to create an ad that gets the most clicks.
Okay, that makes sense. So then what's next? What's the next action that you take?
So you've got that focus group and you're just running for impressions, and you find the ad and it's going up 1%, 2%, 3% clicks. At that point, here's the crazy thing is it might even be within your boundaries that you've figured out, like in chapter 1 of the guide. So you figure out how much you can spend to get a subscriber or whatever from that article. We can then change a few things and lower the cost even further, which can make you more competitive. So what I will do, so I don't want to nerd out too much. You can create these custom audiences in Facebook, and you can narrow down and narrow down and narrow down. The more specific and the more narrow you are, the more Facebook will charge you to show that advert to someone. What you can do is once you've got that focus group ad and it's doing really well, we then broaden the audience. We say, we'll do a lookalike audience of people who visit your site already. And we'll just let Facebook show the advert now to that audience. And what's going to happen is immediately the cost is going to lower to show it to people. Here's the crazy thing. Facebook has an AI built into its platform, kind of like a machine learning program. It starts to learn about the people who interact with your ad on multiple different data points. And then it starts to stop showing it to people who don't convert and then to show it to people who do convert. Now, because your ad was written and designed for the ideal focus audience, it'll actually start showing it to them again because they're the people who are going to see it and start converting. But the beauty is because we're not laser targeting them, it doesn't cost us as much to actually show them. Does that make sense?
It does. That's actually a brilliant strategy.
Right? Because for Facebook to do that, you need kind of like 500 conversions or data points off your advert. But if you're writing an ad and it's for just anyone and you're not laser focused on them, then you might be writing an ad that converts not your ideal customer, right? So yes, you've got an ad that's driving traffic, but it might be driving traffic from people who are not going to buy from you, if that makes sense, or they're not the ideal person for that. There's people out there who literally just like clicking on things, and they're in your target audience group, but they've never spent a dime on anything.
Oh, all of us that run ads hate those people.
Right? I'm almost certain like Facebook or someone is creating these fake accounts for ad clicks and stuff. So by doing that, we've got this focus group ad that we've A/B tested all the elements, so it didn't cost us that much to run. We've now expanded and we changed the goal. So we're not running for impressions now, we're running for subscribers. So in the guide, you'll see there's there's certain elements where we are tracking with the Facebook pixel people who've opted in. So Facebook will know that, okay, that visitor then became a subscriber. And it will keep track of that, and it will keep using that data to better target your audience. And every time that it does that, the costs get lower and lower, and the relevance goes up, so it shows it to more and more people. And those are, like I said, it's not that difficult. It's just understanding these systems. If you've got an article that already converts well, and then you have an advert that gets the most clicks coming across, suddenly even though we're going for a conversion goal for a subscriber, we're telling Facebook to say, hey, of the people who subscribe, I want you to target more people like that and send them to me. Because we know the copy performs well, and we know that the image performs well, and we know that it works with the ideal audience, Facebook is then finding more people who are your ideal customer who will then subscribe, but at a much, much lower cost. So for us, we're in New Zealand, but we're targeting US readers. We're getting something like 15 cents email opt-ins. Whereas we know from our margins, we can afford to spend $23 per opt-in. But that's because I could have quit right away with the focus group and just targeted that focus group. But now, because we've expanded and because we've taken the time, the costs have lowered, but it also means that we've almost exponentially grown the audience that we can talk to. Because I know the ad is going to convert with cold audiences because of the way it's been formatted and structured and written. And then it's going to actually convert, and the relevance is higher and costs are lower. And it's this constant feedback loop. So I can then look in my Facebook dashboard and say, okay, well, it's getting leads for less than I can afford to spend. So when I can afford to pay. So the ad is profitable, especially because I know that X amount of subscribers on average equals a sale. And so now I can scale up those ads if I want to, or I can leave them as they are, knowing that I have a small budget and a flywheel coming in all the time.